Every goal, the sound declares. Heartbeats pound like a drummer's song, marching forward, fierce and strong. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise a banner, let it fly. High through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise a banner, let it fly. High through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire.
Hi guys, and welcome to Irish Lads Talk Spurs. And yes, this is me, Dermo, aka Dermatron, and of course the man next to me, the Irish Fire, the man that brings fire to the Irish nation. Of course, Dave. He hasn't got a nickname yet. I am thinking of a nickname for him. I will come up with one next week for Dave. He won't know.
I'm
what it
Ireland's
is,
number
it'll
one
just-
fan and Tottenham's number one fan. You know that, Dermo.
No, I'm the number one fan. You okay. All right, Tottenham's number one Irish fan. There you go. I'm close to the number two. I'm coming for your crown. Big up, Dave. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, I'm flying high, Dermo. Absolutely flying high off the back of that international break.
Yeah. When have we ever ended an international break happy? It's very rare.
I know. Lad. What a week it
Let's
was,
go.
though, eh?
Oh, fuck me. What a week. I mean, let's go back to the last podcast we did. It was done the day of the Portugal game, wasn't it? And we both said, oh, we'll get a draw out of this game if we're lucky. We were texting, WhatsApping each other during the game. It was something out of fantasy, wasn't it? Beating Portugal and then seeing Ronaldo sent off. I mean, which was funny. And then we go away to Hungary. Edging behind the seat stuff. For me, it brought me back to Jack Charlton's era of Ireland. You know, put them under pressure.
Just after the
For
World
you,
War.
yeah. For you, it was around Mick McCarthy's time after the Second World War. That's how long since Ireland got to a World Cup. I mean, was there a bit of Germany, Ireland, 2002? That last minute goal when Robbie Keane got the equaliser against
similar.
Germany. Yeah.
Very similar. It reminded me of Robbie Brady against Italy as well.
Yeah, that's true. It reminded me of Ray Houghton against Italy. That beautiful volley and then the Ray Houghton goal against England in '88. I mean, how did you feel? I mean, I felt absolutely didn't know what to think. I'm still buzzing. I am still buzzing for that. But how did you feel, Dave, after that? It was a bit of a head fuck, wasn't it? Hang on, we're out. Now we're in.
Look, heading into the, I know. Like, I think, heading into the Portugal game, we were more or less like it was still mathematically possible, but
yeah,
I think the whole country, sort of didn't believe we were going to do it, and rightly so. I know you had the players hitting back and stuff like that, but I mean, we lost to Armenia, we drew at Luxembourg down over the last few years. Like performances have been very few and far in between, but. Look, I think, Ireland, what I think people discounted is Ireland's at their best when people count them out, and I think, also Heimer took the handbrake off a little. We played a little bit more football, played, went at Portugal nice and direct every opportunity we could. And look, Evan Ferguson's injury was probably a blessing in disguise because if he didn't pull out with injury, Troy Parrott would never have started. So
no.
I think in general, though, Darmo, it's a week that Irish football needed because look, in my lifetime, you know, the Irish national team has always had great support, but over the last maybe 15 years, it has really tried people's patience. And I think it's more so the tomfoolery that's gone on in the FAI that has sort of drove people away. It's like, well, look, we're never going to get our act together and stuff like that. And you could see it at the Aviva, attendances were dwindling and stuff like that. And, you know, people were just getting fucked off with it. But look, you know, I think they were just waiting for something to get behind. And I think this team produced that moment. And I think even if we don't get to the World Cup, I think it's a moment that will you know, be the age of this team where they'll come of age now and we'll start competing a lot more regularly and we'll start turning teams over, getting results and stuff like that. I think the goals for Troy Parrott have done his confidence wonderfully well. You know, I think the likes of the back line, Crave Kelleher, by the way, is another player that hasn't been mentioned over the course of the international break because he's been lost behind all the Troy Parrott headlines. But he was sensational against Portugal and pulled off some big saves at crucial times to keep us in the game out in Hungary. And look, fair play to Heimer. You know, he got the job done. Now we've got 2 qualifiers. Now we've got Czech Republic coming up, and then we get the winner of Denmark and I think it's North Macedonia. So, you know, we're still in a good position. And all of a sudden we go into these games now believing and expecting that we should be going to that World Cup. So I just think in general, it really was a week that Irish football needed. Like even my missus sat down and watched the 2 games. Like once she sat down and watched the Portugal game with me. And like we were delirious after that game, and then she was like, "When's the next game?" And she was hooked. Then you know, and this is how easy it can be to get people hooked. We sat down watching the game, and you know, when that last minute winner went in, like she was jumping around like a lunatic. I was jumping around with me top off, screaming like a little girl. You know, I mean, I genuinely couldn't believe it. But you know what, Dermot? I had a moment just before that goal. Actually, you know, the game was getting to me and I need to go to the toilet quickly. I need to go and, you know, have a quick piss. And I remember standing there having a piss and I remember just looking up and I was like, oh, you know, is it going to happen? And something just popped into my head and it was like, Dave, keep calm. You're going to score. And I just sat back down and I just knew it was coming. It was weird. And, you know, when Troy Parrott I mean, look, you've seen the celebration videos being released all over the internet from around the country and stuff. And, look, this is what this country has missed in terms of Irish football, the passion, the pride and all that behind it. And, you know, it's one of them moments that we will kick on from. And look, I know you hated the previous manager, Stephen Kenny, but he deserves a lot of credit because a lot of them players are the ones that he created way for. He brought through, he blooded them, he gave them the experience and stuff like that. So, look, what you're seeing was a young group that performed at under 21 level coming of age now.
Yeah, look, I didn't like Stephen Kenny. I still don't like Stephen Kenny, and that will never change, Dave. Yeah, he probably does deserve credit, but I'm going to very reluctantly give him credit because he was shit as our manager. Look, for Hamir as well, I think he deserves the credit he's getting because I think he's been under a lot of pressure. We didn't get a good start to the group. There was a lot of talk of him being sacked at the end of the group. There was a lot of people asking him to be sacked after the Armenia defeat as well. But I think this Ireland team, I go back to a generation where we never qualified for a major tournament before under Jack Charlton. Go back to Euro 88, where we needed Scotland to give us a hand to qualify for Euro 88. We beat Northern Ireland and to get to on the route to 1990. And then we beat Northern Ireland in Northern Ireland to reach USA 94. And I remember as a kid, the joy that brought the atmosphere in Ireland, especially being an Irish kid in England and walking around with my Irish shirt on, proud as punch, like, look, we're Ireland, we're on the big stage. And I think, apart from 2002, and yes, we've qualified for European Championships, qualifying for a World Cup is a bigger thing. It's a bigger event, and Ireland need to be there. We should be there. It's been too long without an Irish side there, and what we bring the fans, we bring the atmosphere, we bring everything we make it colourful. I mean, even Mrs. Tron was watching it on Sunday on the Portugal game, giving me tactical advice how Portugal are not playing like. She's sitting there like a football manager. Well, they need to change this and they need to change that, and she got hooked into it. And like she watched the rugby team on Saturday, Ireland beat
Australia
as well. And then you got the under-17s doing as well as they did, sadly going out of the
Yeah.
World Cup to Switzerland, but did brilliantly. And you got the under-21s that are doing well. So
Well,
I
their two games were shocking. I mean, look, they
yeah,
gave England a good game for
I did it.
60 odd minutes, but they ended up losing 2-0, and then they lost to, I think it was Armenia or Albania or something
Yeah,
like that.
it was
Or
something.
was it Andorra? Even worse. I think we might have been Andorra. He lost 4-0 out there. I mean, so that campaign's tailed off. They had a lot of injuries, but
Yeah,
look, I think the biggest thing that people, sort of miss as well is financially the FAI need this World Cup. We need to
I
go
did.
there, because if we don't, it's looking bleak in terms of finances moving forward. And
Well,
there's been big pressure on everybody to sort of deliver and try and get Ireland to the World Cup. And
mm,
I think if we get to that World Cup, we're going to be the best supported team out there. We're going to be even more
oh yeah,
supported than the USA,
yeah,
out
yeah,
there. It's going to be insane. And there's millions of Irish, expats, people
mm,
through generations and stuff like that.
yeah.
You'll have a load of
That's
Irish
true.
fans that'll get out there and everything. We will be one of the best supported nations out there. And I would love to get there, because I also think the financial and incentives will help keep the FAI afloat for the next decade
Yeah.
after that. So
And
it's so
also,
important in terms of the finances we make it.
it is, and also we're a host of Euro 2028 as well, which is a big springboard. I think whatever happens, it's a
But there's
massive
no guarantee. We
springboard.
still have to qualify for that.
No, there is. UEFA have kept 2 spots back
They're
for
not going
the
to give us one.
host. Well, England and Scotland have got automatic right, and I think it's Wales and Ireland, Republic of Ireland, have the other one.
Why
It's
wouldn't they
been
give
read
it to
some.
Northern Ireland?
I don't know. I don't know. This is UEFA. This is UEFA we're talking about. The biggest corrupt body in the world apart from FIFA.
Fair.
But look, as I said, back in '94 we qualified, and you look at Italy, the giant stadium was full of Irish fans. That's how much Irish fans are over there. I want another World Cup. This would be your second, Dave. This would be my third as an Irish fan, watching the boys in green in the World Cup. I mean, brilliant. But let's welcome a few people in. I want to say massive big up to Emily. Big up to you, Emily. Hope you're doing well. And I don't know how you kept this guy down. I don't know how you kept him quiet and calm, but somehow you did. But yeah, big up to you, Emily. She says, "Hey guys, looking well." Big up to Emily. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having a great day. Big up to Wayne Bonner as well. He goes, "Good afternoon, Dermot and Dave. Everyone in the chat, hope you're well." Big up to Wayne. Hope you're doing well. Big up to Mary W, the queen of THFC till we die. Well done, the boys in green. Big up to Mary. Oh yeah, you just press the there's a thing at the bottom that says you can hide it, Dave.
What's it for? Socials?
Yeah, it's a new thing StreamYard have brought in.
We'll speak about it after.
Yeah.
They show me.
Yeah, well, it's quite funny actually. I'll be up, Wayne. It still doesn't feel right with you two being happy after an international break. That's so true.
It feels new, but it feels good.
It does feel new. I mean, every international break, me and Dave said, right, let's forget about that. Let's concentrate.
Let's get back into the misery of Tottenham as well.
Yeah. Big up to Jacko wearing his Irish shirt last night. An honorary Irishman. Big up to you, Jacko. We got Wayne, that Houghton goal against Italy in '94 was beautiful. Yeah, it was. Absolutely. I still reckon the header in '88 was better. Still remember it clearly. I do. Big up to DJ Semmer. Congratulations, Ireland. That's 2010 fixed France match. No, we got to beat them. We got to beat them fuckers. Cheating fuckers. And big up to Wayne, Mum. He's been a member for 31 months. Big up to you, Wayne. You must have been here since the very start. And who you fancy in the playoff? This is the group, Dave. This is who we've got. I mean, that's a winnable game, to be fair. And then if we win that, we're at home against either Denmark or North Macedonia. I mean, if the stars haven't aligned for us to get to USA, Canada, and Mexico 26, nothing has. And just one quick final question on Ireland, on the manager. His contract does expire at the end of this, Dave. If you were within the FAI, would you reward him with a new contract? I would. I'd just get it done out of the way, because he's done what was done. What's in his contract? You must reach a playoff. He's reached his contract, what he was supposed to do. So I think just give him his contract now. up to the end of Euro 2028, have stability in there, have sort of the players know who's in charge, the players can get used to it, to know him, get John O'Shea ready and say to John O'Shea, right, when Henry leaves, you're taking over. You're the next manager. Have a sort of a
I
possession
get
sort
you.
of thing. I get it done now, Dave. Why wait? Why wait? Just get it done out of the way, because there's going to be questions, between now and the playoffs.
No, I get it. I think what they'll do is they'll probably extend it to the World Cup. I think after
Yeah.
the World Cup, they will look to go in different directions. Look, people wanted that guy gone before the Portugal game,
Yeah, they did.
and at the end of the day, the vast majority of it hasn't been great. Let's be brutally honest about it. It's been two massive games in a week that has really changed the context of and the trajectory of Irish football. Don't get me wrong, it's massive. But this guy isn't out there looking at players, flying over the games, looking at players that he can bring into the squad and stuff like that. That's not going to last.
No,
that's not going to last. And for me, I think gets us to the World Cup. You'll see out the World Cup, and then I think Ireland will look to bring in a change.
Yeah, I agree. I think John O'Shea would be a good shout. I think Robbie Keane be a really. Hello, where's Dave gone? He's gone for the Irish job. That's what's happened to Dave. He's gone for the Irish job. Yeah, for me, I go for John O'Shea. I would go for Robbie Keane as well. Big up to Wayne. Is Robbie Keane as well gets a manager? Yeah, he does get a shout actually. Robbie Keane does get a shout. I think there's a few players, but I think you're right, Dave. Maybe to the World Cup. But look, if the FAA can't afford other managers and this man they can afford, then you may see them giving the contract up to 2028. It depends what they can afford. But for what I know, they are getting an influx of 38 million euro for hosting Euro 2028. That would clear off some of the 60 odd million euro debt the FIA have. And then I think the government have always said, if you can get the debt down and you can manage yourself, we will help you. So it's down to the FAI now to really show that there can be an organization that they can look after their finances and become a really respectable governing body in this country. And then big up to Rainy says, from the highlights I saw of Denmark, didn't look all that against Scotland. They're up for the taking. That Scotland game, I don't know if you saw it, Dave, was a bit fucking crazy too. That had a lot of Ireland things at the end of it. But big up to Scotland, big up to Wales as well. Big up to Northern Ireland reaching the playoffs, and Wales and Scotland.
Do you know what? What a story for Scotland, though, Dermot.
Oh, yeah, it is.
The last World Cup they were at was in the 80s. You know what I mean? It's
98 in France last World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And you know what? Again, you've seen a Scottish team sort of come of age. Players coming alive, and 3 screamers in that game as well, which is unbelievable as well. So fair play to them.
That fourth goal was something else from the halfway line.
Even the third goal to make it 3-2. To have the balls to have the strike there. I mean, fair play to Tierney.
Oh yeah. Would you take any of them Scottish players at Tottenham? I'd take Tierney.
I'd take John McGinn. I wouldn't mind looking at Scott McTominay either.
No, he's actually could come back in the summer. Actually, I think he's up for grabs in the summer. Well, that brings on nicely to the transfer window, Dave, at Tottenham, which is opening next month. We went through it last night. There's a few players, Ivan Toney, which I don't think is going to happen, and a few other players as well. When it comes to Tottenham and transfers, with Paratici and Lang working together, I'm not convinced it's going to work, Dave. I'm not convinced it's going to work. I'm not convinced they're going to get on. I think there's going to be different players they're going to be after. Do you feel with Levy gone now that them two will have more wriggle room when it comes to wages? Is that one of the biggest things we have to break the cycle of? Or was Daniel Levy right all along? That there was supposed to be a vote for salary cap on Friday, which is not going ahead. So was Daniel Levy right all along about salaries, or was he wrong? I mean, I for me, Dave, I think it's a bit of a. I think he was right and he was wrong. I think you play the best players the wages they deserve, but the younger players, I think if they get too much too early, then the hunger's gone. So you've got to keep them wanting more, keep them hungry. Where are you at it, bud?
What do you mean in general, Dharma?
I mean, look, you look at Daniel Levy. We've got the lowest wages in the Premier League.
yeah,
right?
the wage ratio.
The wage ratio, but there is a balance. You can play the bigger players what they want, but I would keep the younger players hungry, because if you give a younger player, say, $5,000 a week or 10 grand a week, right? That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And I think the hunger goes then from that young player. He thinks, well, I've made it. I can relax now. Do you think Levy had it right? Or do you think the balance wasn't just quite right? He was on the right track, but the balance wasn't right.
No, Daniel Levy was doing things as cheap as possible. And that's the reality of it. Look, when it comes to wages, especially the Pochettino era, the reason why a lot of them wanted to move on after Poch got sacked is because they were playing for Tottenham, A, because they were loving where they were at, but also B, the love for the manager and the way he was getting them to play and stuff like that, which meant, and they were winning, which meant they were happy with the wages because it was being supplemented by performance bonuses. As soon as Pochettino left and results started sort of dropping off, all of a sudden they're looking at what they're getting paid compared to clubs that were interested in them and what they could offer, and they all bounced out of here. And we've lost a lot of our best players, over that course of period of time because, they could earn more elsewhere. And we were the ones that suffered for it, in the last few years. Let's be brutally honest. In and out of Europe, inconsistency in the Premier League, inconsistency in the cups and stuff like that. And we've absolutely suffered for it. Like, at the end of the day, if you want to go and compete, you got to bring in, a certain caliber of players throughout your squad to be able to go and do that. You can always supplement with some of your younger talent on low wages, but in general, if you want to pull the right talent to Tottenham to go and compete, that comes with wages at the end of the day. And you look at it now, we've got 10 players, or we've got, 8 players now on over 100 grand at Tottenham, which has never really been the case before. You got Xavi Simons, Romero, Madison, Paulinho, Moani, Kulusevski, and then Dom Solanke on 100k. Like you would argue a lot of them are some of our better players of the squad. I think Mickey Van de Ven is being harshed on by not being in that list, to be honest with you. But
it is.
At the end of the day, if you want to keep these players here and build on it and bring in better players, you're going to have to start paying the wages, Darmo. No one's like you wouldn't take a job if they offered you below what you were worth or what you thought you were worth if you had all the skills and everything else behind you. So you can't expect these players to do the same at the end of the day. And a lot of them aren't like this whole performance related thing that Spurs were trying to do is not going to wash with a lot of these guys anymore, because it's like, well, you're not winning games, so that's that incentive out of the window to a certain degree. But I also think with Daniel Levy, with that, it was a fake performance incentive sort of wage structure just to keep the wages low on purpose, because people like Harry Winks were getting contract renewals time after time after time again, just to hold on to resale value rather than actually based on performances and stuff like that. So that culture at Tottenham had to change. If you're if you're constantly, in and around the top 4 in the Premier League, you've got a massive stadium, you've got all the training complex, and these players are not dumb. They see all the commercial deals coming in and everything else. They're all going to want a slice of the pie.
I get it. Right. I do get it. And I do agree with you. I do agree with you in what you're saying, but I just think in the long run, it's not sustainable that players now, if you look at the transfer market as well, players are being bought for bigger money than what they're worth. The transfer, it's all out of a little bit of control. And for me, I get what you're saying and I agree, but I think if you're a youngster coming in and you're getting 10 grand a week, you lose that hunger. You lose that sort of eye of the tiger sort of thing to make it. You become a bit more relaxed. And I agree with you. If you're a first team player and you've been there for a while and you're a major first team player, fine, pay them what they're worth. I have no problem with that. But the problem I do have is paying these younger players more than what they're worth. And I feel it takes the hunger. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe because I'm an old fart that I see things slightly differently to you, Dave. You're from the younger generation. I'm from a generation where I had to work. When I started work first, I was on £100 a week. from the age of 16. I didn't get a pay rise from my father until I was in my 20s. And that only went up to £400 a week. That was my weekly wage, which was a lot of money back in them days. But £100 a week for me was a lot. But €70 went to my mum for housekeeping. €20 then savings. That left me €20. I could still go out on a Saturday night and have a good crack with €20, €30 and go to the nightclub and all that. But it gave me the hunger to strive to become better, to be better at my job, to say, right, I want to get to that level. I'm going to put the hard work in on my job to become better at my job, to dedicate myself to the job I'm in, to get a higher wage. And I feel the youngsters now getting too much too soon, and it sort of takes away the hunger for them to get from A to B to C. And I think it has to be a general rise.
I do.
Sorry. Yeah,
I,
go on,
I do get what you're saying, Darmo, but you put Tottenham's academy, right? For years, the academy ethos was keep them on low wages, keep them hungry, right? But the reality is Tottenham didn't bring anybody through doing that, and a lot of the players were walking away, not signing on when it came to professional contracts because they were being offered money elsewhere. Like Nono Madueke is a famous one. Left Tottenham Hotspur, went to PSV, ripped it up, got a massive move to Chelsea, done well there, got a massive move to Arsenal. He's in the England team. He came through the Spurs academy. Young Dennis Sirkin, should have been given an opportunity. Wasn't. Spurs offered him a contract. He said no. Now look at him. He's at Sunderland in the Premier League. You know what I mean? And there's countless of these. But you look at Troy Parrott, another one, sort of left,
true.
and stuff like that. But what Paratici done is he came in. He sort of said to Daniel Levy, look, you have to start paying these guys what they're worth. And we started winning at underage level all of a sudden. We started delivering trophies at underage level and stuff like that. And I just think in modern day football, I think you got to accept that money's a part of it and people are going to go for the money. At the end of the day, they're like, there's a small percentage that lose their hunger. Yeah. But more fool them. They'll struggle to carve out a career for themselves, But there will be ones that will maintain that hunger and will want more. And for the love of the game, just love football, and they'll end up coming through. But at the end of the day, I think you've got to start paying them what they're worth. And since Paratici's done that, look at the players that we're producing at academy level.
That's true. And also, I get it. Football's different to what it was when I was a youngster watching it back in the day. And I get football has evolved over the years as well, Dave, more than it's evolved since you've been watching it as well. So it's always evolving and it's always changing. And I think with the money within the game, the worry is if there ever was a bubble burst, how many clubs would survive?
Oh yeah, of course.
And this is where I feel that Daniel Levy deserves every sort of criticism you can give him to the club. I agree. Levy out was always on the fence, but always on the side of we need to change. But where I think where he does deserve credit is trying to keep Tottenham look, maybe he was wrong, maybe Tottenham earning the money they earned themselves. But I think his principles were right, but I think he did it the wrong way. Would that be fair? The idea was right, but he operated it in a wrong way that it wasn't beneficial to Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he had the wrong people around him. I don't know. But the idea is great, but didn't operate it right.
No, look, I think in terms of, I've never ever been involved in money at that sort of level. So I don't know how difficult it is balancing, the football side and also trying to, build Tottenham Hotspur. At the end of the day, that stadium that he's built us, fair play to him. And the attention to detail and everything else, unbelievable. That's going to be there for the next 100 years. The training complex, unbelievable. And, he has built this club into, a juggernaut. It's 10 times bigger than what it was when he took over. Fair play to the guy. But it was his football inside that he just kept on rinsing and repeating, to David Clark's point there. He just kept on buying young. Even once we start even once he achieved these goals of the stadium being up and running for a few years and the money coming in, look at all the extra revenue we have. Look at the commercial deals that we're doing and stuff like that. It's astronomical. But Daniel Levy never really brought the football inside alongside. We never really maximized our commercial, all the commercial stuff in terms of helping the football inside of things. It was always an excuse, paying players below what they're worth, which means then when bigger clubs come calling, they want out the door because you're not looking after
Yeah.
them. You don't value their talent. You could see that under Postecoglou. We went
Mm.
down the same route of buying young again when it was time to really bring in established players and kick on. Now we've brought in some established players. It's helping us a little, but we need more of that. And at the end of the day, that's where Daniel Levy let himself down. He when he was buying up all the property around the stadium and around Tottenham to be able to demolish the ground and build a new one. He came up with that method of buying young. You go back to Kyle Walker, brought from Sheffield United Academy. Danny Rose and Aaron Lennon brought from the Leeds Academy. Bale brought from the Southampton Academy. Harry Kane came through our academy. Dele Alli came from League One and stuff like that. But the reality is, we accepted that at White Hart Lane. We understood what we were and what we could do in terms of the transfer window and stuff. But once we got into that stadium, we've had Champions League football. We were allowing concerts, boxing, rugby, fucking you name it. It's there. F1, Skywalk, the whole shebang. We're seeing all this extra revenue coming in, plus all the commercial deals, and we're still being told we still can't do this on the football side. That's where Daniel Levy lost a lot of people along the way, because it's like, well, you told us we were building this to be able to maintain keeping our best players, paying them what they're worth to stave off bigger clubs, bring in bigger and better players to help us be successful on the football pitch. But Daniel Levy got greedy and carried on going with the youth, bringing in youth and trying to sell them on for a massive profit and keep the wage budget low. And at the end of the day, when Spurs were suffering for it, because other clubs started getting investment and major investment and stuff like that, and we were falling further and further down the pyramid, it just turned into Daniel Levy being greedy rather than actually, doing what's best for the football club. And that's why he's gone.
I agree. I agree with everything you said there. There's not a lot I can disagree with. Look, it has become a league of the rich and the league of the rest of the poor, because you look at Man City, owned by a nation. You look at some clubs in the Premier League that are owned by bigger nations like Saudi Arabia or Qatar, teams like that they can just throw money at it. We didn't do that. And I think, as great as the idea was, as I've always said, it wasn't run properly. It wasn't put rightly. And look, he's gone. The king is dead. Long live the king, as they say. It's down to Enoch now to show in January and next summer what they can do. I don't trust them, Dave. I think they're as much to blame as Daniel Levy. I think there was a remit. He met it, and that remit comes from the boss. It comes from the very top. So for me, I think there has to be a change. Dave, look, I just want to welcome a few people in the chat, and then we're going to talk about the contracts that players are out at the end. Come January, they can move for free. And also the 2 loan players. What do you do with them? So I want to welcome big up to Tequila. It says Domo is 21, Dave is 18. And we did not pay him to say that. I take that. I do take that. Big up to One Man Cutie. He says, oh, okay. I thought you were 43. This was at me. He asked me, was I over 50? He says, you don't look like you're in your 50s. No, I'm 48, but 50 in a couple of years. The kid says, Levy did my nutting. I need someone to blame. Though, any ideas? Sorry, I got a cough. Me and Wayne Bonner got the same cough. Yeah, subtle hint. I'll big up to Dave. Clark, it says, I see very few players that play with fire in their bellies, especially in the current Spurs squad, which can be 30% extra in players' armory with ability added, can make them all the difference. Dave, look, you and me go back to the 80s. You go back further back than me, where younger players had fire in their belly. Graham Roberts came from non-league. He had fire in his belly. And players like that, you look in the 90s, you had Nick Barmby that came through. You look at Stephen Carr that came through, and other players that come through the academy. Harry Kane, he had fire in his belly. And also with Harry Kane, may I add, that he didn't perform well on loans, and he was going to be sold. And if it wasn't for what's his name, Tim Sherwood, I don't think Harry Kane. And even now, he said the other day in the podcast that he could see Harry Kane playing to his 40s. I can quite happily see that too. He could be going to Barcelona. in the summer. That'd be interesting if he goes there. Lang could be the answer. He has the Ange name, so close enough. Okay, pick up. Like your logic, Tequila. I may just blame Boris Johnson because I laugh in it. I adore how much Dermot dislikes him now, ever since he did that funny face on Mass's documentary.
Oh,
It's
Brennan
true,
Johnson.
Dave. Yeah, I saw that. That changed my habit on him. That changed my opinion of him, Dave. And you and me talked about it afterwards, and you put it brilliantly when you said Archie Gray's father needs to tell his son to get away from him because Archie Gray comes from a very big dynasty up at Leeds, the Gray dynasty. And he scored a cracker of a goal for Wales against North Macedonia, but it's North Macedonia. Where's he doing that? He actually cut in, Dave. He cut in from the right hand side, ran across, and then put a belter in. Why can he not do that for Tottenham? Where's that? And I don't want to talk too much about Brendan Johnson, but he really frustrates me. He really is frustrating me, and I think a move out the club would be the best for him. Definitely. What else is there? And that's it. Right. Okay, they're just talking to each other. Right, Dave. We're coming to January window, and these are the 4 players that their contracts end in 2026. So, yes or no question to each player, and then we will get into it a little bit. Palunia, yes or no?
Yeah, without doubt.
Okay. Colo, yes or no?
Yep, without doubt.
Okay. I'm going to love the last 2. Ben Davies, keep him around or sell him?
I mean, what use has he been this year? I made the argument last year. It was pointless extending his contract. It's a waste of a squad place. Yeah. He's not going to play. And, we're sitting here deep into November, heading into the Christmas period. We still haven't seen a feature for Tottenham Hotspur. Absolute waste. Shouldn't have been given a new contract. Get him gone. Why do we keep doing this? Keeping players around that don't contribute.
Now, Basuma, is Tottenham are going to have an option on Basuma? They are going to extend it just because of the value part of it, Dave. So if it does so, that Tottenham gets some money for him. For Ben Davies, would you be quite happily giving him a free transfer?
Yeah, and there's no resale value there.
No, just give him a free transfer. Thank you very much. Basuma, are you with the agreement that renewing his contract for that year, but that's for a resale value? Do you think that's a good idea? Or would you just get rid? Just take what you can get in January.
Look, again, with Basuma, I mean, if the Lewis family do that, they either better have a bid lined up for January, and that's where he's going. If not, they're just continuing on the same mistakes that we've seen before from Daniel Levy. Yeah. At the end of the day, right, you've got a player there that doesn't pass the threshold of the no dickhead policy of the manager. He's just sitting around in the background, happy to collect these wages, and I'm not being funny. A player like that, you're going to see other players start going and being with him, because he's just going to become a disruptive nuisance behind the scenes. You're going to see other players, slacking off and joking around with this guy and everything else. At the end of the day, he's not reliable on the pitch. He's not reliable off the pitch.
Yeah.
And there is no resale value. The reality is he was up for sale in the summer. Tottenham made it known to everybody this guy was for sale. But no one pulled the trigger on him. Why? Yeah. Because his contract was coming up. If we extend it by a further year, people are just going to wait till next January. The reason why they're not going to put money down on this guy is because he's a big gamble for any manager. At the end of the day, you look at the guy. Off the pitch, he's a bit of a clown in the dressing room. Bit of a, always laughing and joking. Doesn't take anything seriously. If you're a manager that's trying to cultivate a winning sort of environment, which is, I believe, the Lewis family said through Vinay, which is what they're trying to do, then you cut people off by the wayside. As rootless as it sounds, that's what you got to do to cultivate a winning sort of environment. So Tottenham need to cut them by the wayside very, very quickly and send out the warning shots to everybody in and around the club. We're not having this anymore. The times of being able to slack around here and still hang on, like Ben Davies gets and stuff like that, it's not happening anymore. If you're not performing, you're not contributing, you're out the door. At the end of the day, he sets a shit example to all the youth players, as a professional and how you should behave and stuff like that. And with the youth, with the sort of youth senior squad we've got anyway, he's just not a good guy to have in and around the environment. And, any club that's looking to take him, if you're a manager, you're taking a gamble on the guy. hoping
Yeah.
that you can get the best out of them. But you're not going to pay to take that gamble. No manager is going to pay on gambles anymore. They might
No.
take them in on a free, but they're not going to pay for it. And, if we're trying to cultivate the winning atmosphere, you've got to start setting an example. Get the fucking guy gone.
I agree. Look, for me, Basuma, I think this all started. I think this is where one of the things Ange can be blamed for, I think, was the way that he reacted to Basuma being late. I think if he dealt with it then, if he dealt with it properly then, I think, okay, you had the balloon incident, which I don't think they dealt with that properly either. I think they just swept that under the carpet a little bit. I would give him a 3-game ban. Well, that's not going to do. You wanted to make an example of him towards the group. Right, you do this, and this is what you get. If you're late, this is what you get. They didn't deal with it right, and he's been allowed to fester, and he's been allowed to he's been encouraged with his behavior, and that's what's happened. He was encouraged
But
under
I
that
don't, I
manager.
don't think so, Dermot. With Ange Postecoglou, you tried to get the best out of him. Let's not forget, right? When Conte had him, everyone was bemused why Conte wouldn't use him. Conte came out later and said, look, tactically, he just doesn't understand. He can't do what I'm asking him to do, which there should have rang alarm bells anyway.
Yeah.
It's clear that the guy doesn't have the discipline to play in midfield. And when you're playing in midfield, you have to be really disciplined. You have to, not only are you doing your defensive duties, but you're also doing attacking duties as well a lot of the time. So you have to really understand what you're doing. Basuma either didn't want to do it or couldn't do it. So Conte didn't use him. Ange came in, put his hand around him, said, you're my guy. You're my guy. I need you. Tried to get the very best out of him, showed him a bit of love. And Basuma let him down time and time and time and time again. How many big games last season did he give away the ball that ended up in a goal? Shit performance against Rangers off the back of losing us the Chelsea game and stuff like that. And now Frank's come in. Now Frank's come in. He's just gone, I'm not dealing with this. He's had a couple of previous managers. He hasn't performed. He doesn't pass my zero dickhead policy. He's got to go. He's just not good enough.
And also, you look at the Palace game, we were both at, Dave. The Palace game where he was woeful that day. I mean, they were all woeful, to be fair, but he was as worse as anyone. Look, for me, I would agree, Palunia, definitely yes. Look, for me, Colo, I can see what he's trying to do, Dave. I can see the link-up play. I can see the ability he does bring up front, but he's there to score goals. That's his job. Is he getting the service? No. So if you don't get service, you can't score goals. You look at the game against Copenhagen, he had 2 opportunities there to score goals. What I did like about him, though, is his unselfishness as a striker. For him, he had that chance, didn't he? When the ball went over the top, he brought it down. Now, any striker instinct is, I'm going to shoot. But he didn't. He looked around, brought it down. Right, my opportunity's gone. What can I do? And he saw a player there. I forget who scored. Was it Palunia? Udaba. And he said, right, my option's gone. Right, I'm going to pass it. And then you look at Richarlison, when it came to the penalty, no, I'm taking that. Instead of giving it to young Scarlett, right, go on. This is your Champions League debut. Go and score you on your debut. Go on, make it a night for yourself. And I just feel, look, Richarlison needs to go. Definitely. I don't care what you do. Sack him, pay off his contract. He's no good to nobody. But he will be playing on Sunday. And that worries me deeply. I would play Scarlett on Sunday, Dave, if I'm being honest. And in my predicted lineup, I am going to go down that route. I'm going to play Scarlett up front because I think you get more of Scarlett than you do of Richarlison. Richarlison now is backing into people trying to look for fouls. Look, if they ain't going, we talked about it last night actually with Rayman. If it ain't going to work the first time, the referee ain't going to give it the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, or sixth time. Just very quickly on Richarlison, I don't want to spend too much time on them, Dave, and then we just go on to the injuries, and then we will finish the podcast there. On Richarlison, something's missing with him. I think it's his shithousery. I think that's been taken out of his game. Do you think, Dave, I'm not trying to look, I want to look and saw the not the player, but the person. Do you feel all what he went through last season with Ange and the two, since he's come to Tottenham, he's always been injured. He's never really been fit. Do you think that's taken a toll on him personally? And that's now affecting his performances because the shithousery has gone. Do you think the shithousery was his sort of, that's give them the edge.
I don't think that's his problem, Dermo. I think Richarlison, it's his mental health. You know, he's came out in fair play to the guy. He's been so honest about it and stuff like that. And you know, as a professional athlete, you listen to any professional athlete across the board. If your head's not right, your performance is not right. And that's just as simple as it is. A lot of these people will tell you that if they've got things affecting them in life and stuff, there's very few people that don't let it affect them in terms of their performance levels. And I think that is Richarlison's big problem is his head just isn't right, you know, and that's affecting everything. And then, you know, he spoke about, you know, the problems he had outside of the pitch, but then also when you combine that with things not going right at Tottenham with the injuries, you know, being in and out of the team, long spells without goals and stuff like that. And then when he does get chances, he's spurning them and stuff. It all just compiles and compiles and compiles. And to be honest with you, I'd hate to be where he's at because I could only imagine the turmoil and the torment that he's fighting in his head every single day. You know, you got to remember, like, you know, someone like me, if I was to have them sort of problems, you know, which, you know, we've all had, I can do it behind the scenes, you know, out of the public eye, stuff like that. He can't. No matter where he goes, what he's doing, he's always in the public eye. So it's an even worse place to be. So I sort of feel sorry for him in that regard. But at the end of the day, it's just not working out. And I think a fresh start would do him good. And I think it'll do Tottenham the world of good.
I mean, it says a lot when the Brazilian fans think he's shit too. I mean, they say he shouldn't be in the squad either. And that says a lot. They can't even find it. I mean, they won't even pick Thiago from Brentford. Do you think Brentford are a small club in Brazil? He's doing better than Richarlison. And he won't even get picked for the Brazilian squad because Richarlison is Richarlison. I look, for me, I think we paid too much money for him. I've always gone on the sort of attitude, Dave, of he was a big fish in a small pond at Everton. But when he come to Tottenham, he became a small fish in a big pond. And he's got lost in that sort of being at Tottenham, being at a big club. I think he needs to go back to an Everton or a smaller club like that. I'm not calling Everton a small club, but do you know what I mean? He needs to go back to a club where it's built around him, that the team's built around him.
He just doesn't have the technical ability to play at this level.
No.
You know, he gets away with it at smaller club because the pressures are different, the demands are different, and you can turn up every couple of weeks, go and win a game, and you're their main man. You know, at a club like this, you need to be on it every single game, twice a week.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't have the technical ability to play at this level. And, you know, the higher you go up, the more technical you have to be, the cleaner you have to be, the better and quicker you have to do things. And Richarlison just isn't that guy. He's just not got out for this level.
He isn't, Dave. He really isn't. I want to say, Tequila says Everson was better than Richie. I get back to you if Armstrong and Simona are better. They might be. Yeah, it's harsh. I agree. It is harsh.
Technically, Zamora was better.
Yeah, I would say. I say Armstrong was better. Chris Armstrong was better than him.
Used to pop up with a goal here or there. Everson used to drive me mad.
I know. He did score that great goal against Wimbledon, didn't he, in '99?
I was there at that game.
Were you?
Yeah, I was there. Believe it or not, I was actually in the Wimbledon with my dad.
I'd say that was fun.
Yeah, I was there in the Wimbledon with my dad because his friend in work, you know, was a huge Wimbledon fan and he had tickets. So we all went. And I remember before the game, the old lad saying, just don't celebrate if we score, you know what I mean? Like, because I didn't understand the football coach, but I didn't understand how, you know, Wimbledon fans could be and stuff like that. And I remember we scored and I jumped up, celebrated. And next thing you know, all these bottles started coming down. Then my dad jumped up, sort of revealed his jersey, gave it a bit and, you know, protected me. And then they just abused bottles. Everything started coming down our way and we were quickly took out of there and put in the Spurs in. So, you know, I ended the day nicely.
Dave, even young Dave, causing trouble at matches.
I just didn't know at the time, you know what I mean? I just didn't understand it.
You were told before the game. Your dad did tell you. Yeah, I know.
I was like fucking 8 or not even.
I get it.
I was born in 91. Yeah, so I would have been like 7.
I get it. I was the same. I went back in the 80s. I went to see Tottenham Arsenal. It was back then. It was reserves. It wasn't on the 21s. And obviously our D-list was playing and everything. And my dad took me. He said, "Right, say nothing." And there's me shouting abuse to the Arsenal side, like, "You're a crap." My dad took me out of there very quickly. And that was back in the 80s. This was in St Albans, like we played the reserve side. Oh yeah. You don't listen at them age, do you, Dave? You think you know
No.
better. I know better. I know better. Dennis Wise was going to be looking for you now, Dave. Look, just very quickly, Dave, on the injuries, North London Derby, it is coming up. Look, very quickly, North London Derby for me, it's about passion, it's about pride, it's about making North London white. It's not red, it's not white. Arsenal are a South London club. Just go back to South London, do what you got to do, pack up your bags and go. I mean, the only came to North London, and I do swear to this, that they built a stadium with an open sewer. I mean, whoever designed that stadium, A, needed shooting, and B, he needed reprimanding very badly. And then they moved into North London, and of course, the rest is history. They then bribed the FA when it came to us getting promoted. They bribed the FA, and we know they're a corrupt club, so they shouldn't be in North London at all. Belongs to Tottenham and Barnet. Arsenal, just go back to South London where you belong. But it is a game of passion. It's grown over the years, Dave, from the 70s and 80s of the not really being. It's always been a rivals derby, but it's got intense as the decades have gone on, Dave, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What the question to you in one word, what does the North London Derby mean to you?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's about the territory, isn't it? Really, that's what it all comes down to. At the end of the day, back in the day, Tottenham saw Highbury as their sort of catchment area, North London, stuff like that. And, Arsenal moved in and sort of took over that. And, they've been trying to take over North London since, haven't they? And stuff like that. So, even go back to a couple of years ago, they got a North London Derby postponed, so that they could play another game. And then we went to postpone the game so we could play in Europa Conference League. We weren't allowed and stuff. So they've always been given special privileges. And it's like, they've been on a crusade to try and take us out of North London. There's only one original club from North London, and that's Tottenham Hotspur, and they need to know that. And that's why going into this game, I don't care the form that we've been on. At the end of the day, form always goes out the window. I don't care about the injuries we had. They were in a similar position a couple of years ago and still came and bet us at our place. This is doable. And at the end of the day, this game is all about representing your club. So I urge fans, get on the hats, get on the scarves, get the jerseys out, get your little pin badges out, get the flags out, everything, and really go for this game. It is a matter of pride. I get that form is maybe slided off a little bit lately. Performances have slided off a little bit lately. And, some believe in Frank, some don't. But this is the game to put that all aside. If we can pull out a result, all of a sudden it brings everybody together. And that's what these games are about. And at the end of the day, it's about passion and pride from where you come from and your football club. So, last night on our fan show, I was a bit concerned about some of the defeatist attitude going into the game. For me, I'm not having it. It's football. We've seen with the Republic of Ireland, things can change just like that. And that you can pull off the unbelievable. And for me, I'm not going into this game with a defeatist attitude. I feel like we can still get something no matter all the, everything in the universe telling me we can't. I still believe. So why can't we? It's a big, big game for us. And look, North London derbies mean everything. Like I've had the privilege of being to a few. I was at the one in Wembley when Hugo Lloris pulled off a penalty save at the last minute and Jan Vertonghen cleared it. That was unbelievable because their fans were going absolutely crazy. They thought they'd won it, and then we saved it and they went very, very quiet very quickly. And it was the Spurs fans that had the last laugh that day. But equally, I was at one a couple of years ago and we lost 3-1 that day. Michael Oliver was a prick. He disallowed a perfectly legitimate goal, didn't give 2 penalties that day as well. And I was right beside the Arsenal fans, and they were giving it large for the whole game, and that was tough to take. It really hammers home that it is a game of pride. Who rose North London, who's going to own North London for the next while, and also let's not forget, we're flying high at the top of the league right now. We win, Man City, or we take a point off them, and Man City win at the weekend. All of a sudden, Man City are right back up behind Arsenal, and Arsenal will bottle it. So this is a massive, massive North London derby. Let's get behind the boys. Forget about, where we're split on club ownership and manager and players, etc. Let's get behind the boys until they're on the pitch, and let's see what we can fucking do.
I agree. Look, North London derby. Look, I sort of come in. I promised myself I would go every game I come into North London derby. I'm delusional. We're going to win no matter what. And then if we lose, there's a big drop off because I'm so disappointed we didn't win, and I hate losing the North London derby. I decided right. I even said to Keelan, "Sorry, I'm coming in this one. Look, in the middle. I'm going to not be delusional. I'm going to be realistic. I'm going to look at this, look at the injuries. I'm going to look at the form. Yes, form does go out the window. I'm going to be, not delusional. Fuck that. I'm being delusional. We're going there. I'm going to wipe them. Look, for me, the North London derby means to me passion, responsibility, because we have a responsibility. Turbo, you're so negative. The responsibility, because they have a responsibility for us, the fans, to put in performance, to fight for that shirt, and it means everything. And if Ireland can go and beat Portugal and go away and get a win against Hungary, we need to put them under pressure. I keep saying this, Dave. We need Jack Charlton's sort of whole football authority was put them under pressure, and we could still play that put them under pressure in this game in this day and age. Probably a bit differently, but it is about putting them under pressure. Yes, we haven't won there since 20. We've only had one win there in 30 odd games, and that was the 3-2 win when we came from 2-0 down. Yes, we got a draw in Ange's first North London derby where we should have won that day. To be fair, I felt disappointed that we didn't win because we could have won. Yes, we've got more of a good record against them at our place. Yes, Michael Oliver is the referee, and everything seems to be stacking against us. Well, then it's time then to put a picture on the dressing room wall of Arsenal, and the manager's got to come out. This is what it means to win. They're not North London. We are. We own North London. We're the original North London club, as you said, Dave. We need to go out and give our fans something to brag about. It's bragging rights as well. Look, I want Tottenham. Let's go through the entry list just for the game, Dave. I mean, these are all not confirmed. We haven't had Thomas Frank's press conference yet, but as we know, Kudus is out, could return. We know Papa Sarr could return. We know Cole Bergville is out because of his head. We don't know when he's going to come back. We got Kolo's out to December, January. Solanke's out to the same. Then we've got Madison and Kulu. Madison's out to summer. Kulu back in January. We've got Dragson sometime back in December. Gray could be back for the game as well. And then you've got Basuma and Taki and Ben Davies. We don't know when they're back. Kudus and Sarr, for me, if they can be back for the game, Dave, that would be a big plus for us, I think, as well. I'm sort of stuck on Xavi. I think you get more out of Xavi on the left than you do in the middle. I know you disagree, Dave. I know you see him as a 10. But if you look at the game against Aston Villa, you look at the games where he's drifted out to the left, that's where he's been more effective. Yes, people say, look at when he played in the 10 at Copenhagen. It's Copenhagen. Yes, they're a Champions League club, but they're not of high quality. So, of course, he's going to get the room. He's going to get the space to settle him down and look for passes. Premier League is totally different, Dave. Premier League is 100 miles an hour. You don't get time on the ball. As soon as you get the ball, there's two players around you. You look at Kudus, there's always two players around him, blocking him, snapping at his heels. You got to make decisions on the fly quickly. And I feel you get more Xavi on the left than you do in the middle.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I was one of the ones. I've been saying that for weeks. Go back and check my predicted lineup. I've been saying it for months about Xavi Simons, playing on the left. Even when we've put him through the middle, a lot of the times he hangs out down that left-hand side. With Copenhagen, he had more time and space. So, he was playing off, he was linking up with our front three. And ideally, Xavi Simons' long-term position is number 10. But while he's acclimatizing and adapting to the pace and the physicality of the Premier League, you've got to play him, in the best position according to that game. And with Arsenal, their big strength is the physicality of their midfield, which I'm afraid Xavi Simons is going to get swallowed up within that. For me, I think there is a fair call to play him off the left in this game. I think Thomas Frank has not helped Xavi Simons in terms of settling into the Premier League.
No,
I think, dipping him in and out of the team, playing him through the middle in games where he's not comfortable and stuff, I think has really affected Xavi Simons' confidence, to be honest with you. I don't think Thomas Frank has helped him. I think Thomas Frank should have recognized very quickly when he played him in the number 10, he's hanging out on the left. He's got to understand why. If you're a footballing guy, it's clearly because he feels more comfortable out there because he gets more time and space on the ball. And, he doesn't have the physical players like he would in the midfield constantly snapping at and he feels taking it off him, which means when he's out on the left, he can get turned and he can play them balls forward and stuff like that. So I think I've always made that argument nearly all season long that, there's certain games you should be playing him off the left. I said against Aston Villa, you can't play him in the midfield because, again, that's where they're most physical. You got Onana and stuff there. It's not going to work. And he played him in the midfield and he neutralised him. And I don't think Thomas Frank has helped Xavi Simons whatsoever settle into the Premier League. And I think for this game, there's a fair call to play him off the left-hand side because, through the middle, Arsenal are just going to be snapping at him. Look, to be honest with you, I think from the very beginning, you've got to play your most physical players. I don't want to see Pedro Porro play it right back. I want to see Jed Spence. Pedro Porro, one of Arsenal's biggest strengths is aerially. Pedro Porro's weakest strength is aerially. I don't want to see him play. I don't want to see us carry a body in the middle like a Xavi Simons. Physically, he's not going to be up to the task. I don't want to see Brennan Johnson start. Physically, he's not going to be up to the task. At the end of the day, rinse and repeat when we've been at the Emirates. The first 20 minutes, half an hour, they come at us absolutely relentlessly and they throw fucking the kitchen sink, the bus, and everything at us. We got to play our most physical players from the beginning. We can't afford to be carrying a technical player in that regard. The game will be there for them later on off the bench.
It's fight, meet fire with fire, isn't it? Really. Look, we've got to go there. I think the first 15 minutes are going to be crucial. We've got to quiet the crowd. Well, the crowd at the Emirates are quiet anyway. You don't want to quiet them anymore. But first 15 minutes is crucial for me. We've got to go there, set out how we're going to play. Thomas Frank, I think he has to change it tactically as well. Go 3 at the back, play a 3-5-2. I think that might work. And we've got to come out and we want to win the game. We don't want to be scared. We don't have to go. We've been guilty of going there, Dave, and being overawed and being scared because of the occasion. Look what we did when they came to us under Conte, when we made our place a fortress. Look what it did. But you look at Arsenal are beatable. Arsenal haven't played well. Sunderland got a draw with them before the international break. I think Sunderland were unlucky not to win that game, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Arsenal are all this invincible, great team that are unbeatable. I think Arsenal are very beatable. And I think if you get around them, you get into them, you make it difficult for them in the midfield, and you put it about, I think you can beat them. I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to put them under pressure. We've got to go out with the mentality, we don't care. We don't care. And we know we're going to be playing against the referee as well, Dave. You and me both know Michael Oliver is going to be an Arsenal fanboy and look for his latest Arsenal autograph from some players.
On Michael Oliver, I've done a bit of research into him because I feel like anytime you referee Spurs, I feel like we're on the receiving end of, disgusting decisions, ones that are almost unforgivable. But then I seen he was announced for the North London Derby, and Arsenal fans were outraged by him. And to be fair, they've got a reason. He has given them the most yellow and red cards.
Yeah.
The most cards, out of any other team he's refereed. But he's also refereed with the most. He's refereed us a few games less. But we've only been given 3 cards less than Arsenal, and we've been given more red cards. So it's yellow cards, 3 yellow cards less than Arsenal, but we've been given 5 red cards from Michael Oliver over the years. So both teams have a right to feel aggrieved about it. However, where I'm hoping he's more on our side in this derby is if people actually go and do their research about Michael Oliver. There a couple of years ago, he was flown over to Saudi to referee 1 game. And the people that flew him over put him in first class, gave him the hotel, and also paid him money for doing it, a good sum of money. We're the Man City owners. Who's chasing Arsenal down in the league? Man City. I'm hoping they get on the blower to Michael Oliver. Remember that 20K we gave you for coming over here and refereeing that game? Now's the time to call in the favor. So that's what my hope is, to be honest with you. Yeah. And if anyone says I'm lying about that, by the way, just go on Google All that information is there.
Was that against Liverpool?
PGMOL has had to put a stop to Premier League referees being flown out across to do these one-off games and stuff because it opens it up to corruption.
What wasn't that the Liverpool game when we got the dodgy offside goal that we shouldn't have got, but we did get because the both lads were tired? Wasn't it? Wasn't that the game he came back and refereed?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, Dermot.
I think it was.
I
I
think
think
correct.
that had something to do. Yeah, I think that might have. My memory's telling me it's something. It's something to do with that game. But no, I agree. I agree. And Stuart Atwell's on VAR. He's another idiot as well. But look,
Batwell is what I call
us,
him.
yeah. Look, it's us against the world. We're gonna us against everyone. So we're gonna win. Of course we are, because we're Tottenham Hotspur. Dave, we're gonna end it there. Thank you for everyone that's come in to the Irish Lads Talk Spurs podcast, episode number 5, Dave, of this podcast. I'm enjoying this every week. They will be going up on Spotify in the next couple of weeks, guys. I'm hoping to put together a Christmas special for you guys before Christmas. Dave, we may get Jack on, and I may get Tequila on as well to join us for a little Christmas special. And then we're going to continue this next year, because I really enjoy doing these podcasts with you, Dave. It's good fun. It's a bit of a laugh. We get to talk a bit about Ireland. Very last thing, off-topic question. We had the fight at the weekend between Ben Eubank, very one-sided. I hope that saga's finished, but it did break that AJ is fighting Jake Paul. Now, you're giggling, I'm giggling. Are you going to buy it on Netflix to watch it, Dave? Will you watch it?
Do you know what? It's one of them.
Yeah,
right. Jake Paul is like a lot of these guys, especially Jake Paul. He's sort of ruined boxing, right? You know, he's fighting. You know, he's bringing in UFC fighters to box him, and he's building up a record, and he's paying a lot of these guys to take the fall and stuff like that. And a lot of the guys he's fought have, at the end of their career, if not retired, and want a massive payday. Yeah. So they've all took it, and they've all been happy to take the fall and stuff like that. He needs putting an end to. And you do need someone with serious boxing ability to be able to just absolutely destroy him. However, with AJ, since he's come into all the big fights, he's sort of been showing up to a certain degree. You know, he's past his prime. You know, there was a point. I remember there was a point. Like, I followed AJ's career the whole way through, by the way. I watched him in the Olympics, followed him into the professional rank, watched all of his early fights, and he was knocking people out for sport. But whatever it was around that Parker fight, the guy from New Zealand, his mentality shifted. I remember after the fight when it went 12 rounds and everyone was expecting him to knock him out, he started talking about, you know, being religious and, you know, not wanting to hurt people and stuff like that. And I'm not being funny, but when you're in that sort of sport, you can't have that sort of mentality. No. And since that fight, he's never, ever been the same fighter since he started speaking like that. So my concern is he... Because you heard Eddie Hearn was on Talk Sport. He was speaking about the money that's available. He says, look, you know, I could put AJ in with a fight here against a proper boxer. He's just going to get a small payday for a warm-up fight, where he's going to earn more than what he did, you know, for his biggest fight ever. 10 times more than what he did for his biggest fight ever to fight this clown, and hopefully put an end to him in boxing. But my fear is, with him coming to the end of his career, isn't one of them where he's going to take the bag and sort of fall and just boost Jake Paul's reputation into this all-encompassing fighter. So for me, to be honest with you, I don't want to see the likes of Anthony Joshua all step in the ring with you know, guys like this. I just think it's an absolute farce, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you and me could whoop Jake Paul. I mean, that says a lot about you and me.
But money speaks at the end of the day. I think he'll take it.
Does. Wayne Bonnet says, Jesus Christ, it says, I would whoop Jake Paul. I've got 2 short knees, a knackered neck, never box. I'm 51. I do 3 rounds.
The whole Tyson Fury thing, or the whole Mike Tyson thing was a joke.
Yeah, it was. It was a joke. I mean, that fight has been confirmed for December, live on Netflix. So it'd be interesting to see how many people watch it. If it doesn't go, if it doesn't go longer than 30 seconds, or a minute, I'll give him a minute, because AJ I started watching that Matchroom documentary on Netflix, by the way. I've nearly finished the first episode. Really good. I'm really
So
enjoying
good.
it so far.
Follow it all the way through,
Uh,
Darmo. It's so good.
yeah.
It's, you know
Um,
what? It really shows the power that
yeah.
is it Saudi Arabia where the sheikhs are
Yeah.
from and all? It really
Yeah.
shows the power they have, because when you get later into that documentary, Eddie Hearn speaks about it, and so does Barry Hearn, and
Mm,
you know, I think a few other people that speak about it. It's like this
mm,
guy will call you at any time of the day when he's in London, any time of the night, and you have to come round. And half the time, he's just calling you around to make a TikTok for his social media
mm.
and stuff, and then just keeps you there for hours on end, just fucking basically like slagging you off and trying to banter you and all that sort of stuff. Like, it really shows the power them guys really have. The fact that these guys are willing to drop everything, no matter time, day or
Yeah.
night, to go around to this guy's hotel room, knowing that a lot of the time he's just there to take the piss out of you on social media and shit like that. It
Yeah.
really does show its madness.
Yeah. Just a few people here.
Don't let Philip
Um,
Brady watch it; he'll lose his mind.
He's just back from his cruise at the moment. Philip is back yesterday from his little holiday.
Well, for some,
Again, more advertising for the Irish. You know, he's doing a lot of work for the Minister for Foreign Affairs. As we all know, he is part of the government, but he won't tell me which government post he's got, but he is part of the government. Hello, Mr. Brady. Hope you're doing well. It's under Queensberry rules, so he can't be fixed. AJ will lose his license if he gets caught match fixing. That's so true. Big up to Ghosted London. He said if Joshua can knock out the MAA fighter, and
Ganu,
not
the hardest puncher in the world.
yeah, then it just concerns these influencer fights are fixed. That's true. Can't take boxing seriously with Jake Paul. No, I can't either. And then a tackler after my own heart.
Do
He
you know
can
what the problem
replace
is,
me.
Darmo? Like, people had the problem with Mayweather and McGregor doing the crossover. I'd much rather watch that, like Ngannou, Fury, and stuff
Yeah,
like. I'd much rather watch that than someone like Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I would too. Look, I hope Jake Paul gets flattened. The only thing I
I'd
would
love to
worry
see a
about it,
boxer go across the other way, though. I'd love to
yeah,
see, you know, I'd love to see a two sort of fight where it's like the UFC fighter goes into the boxing ring and then the boxer goes into the
yeah.
UFC ring, and you know, I'd love to see that.
Look, for me, the only thing I would worry about it, Dave, is Jake Paul's health and his health. I think that's the major concern for me for this. I think you're putting him in against a bona fide heavyweight, two-time
Yeah,
heavyweight champion.
they'll increase the padding in the gloves. You know, they'll wear gloves where, you know, it's
I,
a lot of the punching power will be absorbed through the gloves. I guarantee you
I
that
do you know
they'll be
what?
like pillows on Fury's or on Joshua's fists.
Yeah, I just think if it goes any longer than a round, and then I think, right, something's wrong here. Wayne says Philip Brady could whoop Jake Paul easily. Yeah, that's true. That is so true. And Francis was 6'4" and weighed 20 stone. AG knocked him clean out. Yeah, he did. Look, I think if he wins that, I think he gets a fight against. I think AJ Fury will happen next year, and also I
Yeah.
also feel he may win his third title. But Dave, where can people find you, sir? I know everyone knows where they can find Dave, but Dave, where can they find you? Just in case
Yeah, you
somebody
can.
does.
Yeah, you guys can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. We'll be live later on at 6:30. We've got the two lads from Kildare Spurs on. You know, I really enjoy the podcast actually with them guys. You know, so I would encourage everybody to come along, give it a chance, give it a listen to, and join in.
Yeah, do that, and please do. And yeah, join us next week Thursday for this podcast as well. We're going to talk about. I think the next week's podcast we'll have the North London Derby to talk about, Dave, and the PSG game as well. So we're going to have a few
Yeah.
games to talk about. We are back into Tottenham territory, but we're going to end up how we started. Ole, ole, ole. We're back. Ireland are back in the playoffs. We do away to, I think it's
Czech
not
Republic.
Czechoslovakia anymore. It's
No,
Czech Republic.
well, it used to
and
be
then we've
Czech
got
Republic, but now it's Czechia.
Czechia, and we do have a home tie either against North Macedonia or Denmark. We owe Denmark revenge for beating us in the playoff final 5-1 at the Aviva.
They've done us a
We
few
owe
times
them.
over the last few years
Yeah,
in groups and
They
stuff.
have. Look, if we can go away and beat Portugal, who we've never beaten before, by the way, and we can do what we did in Hungary, the boys in green will be in USA 26. Thank you for watching, Dave. Thanks again. Come on, you Spurs. And Thomas Frank and the Hamir we trust. You never beat the Irish, and that is for sure. Hang on, where's my thing?